Look at what to expect from the local market today and a look back at the session just gone. Stan Shamu joins us from RG in Melbourne. Stan, good to see you there. Yeah, the Aussie failing at that 93 US resistance level. What are going to be the key drivers today, certainly in terms of data and the RBA speech?
Yeah, absolutely. It just seems like a lot of traders out there just a bit sceptical about being caught out long the Aussie dollar, particularly as it approached that resistance level in the 93 region. Of course, we also had those US pending home sales data that came out slightly better than expected, still at minus 0.4% though. But this really did help the US dollar come back to life just slightly. And of course, with the RBA's, the Governor Glenn Stevens due out today, and of course the building approvals data due out today as well, it certainly seems like the Aussie dollar is on the back foot right now. Of course, the market's pricing in a chance of about 75% for a rate cut next week as well. So that doesn't really help the cause for the Aussie dollar. It's now traded back towards that 92 level, and if it's a situation where building approvals data comes in as strong as expected, up 2.2%, then that's a pretty big improvement, and it could see the Aussie dollar trade higher heading into Glenn Stevens. But we do know he has been focused on talking down the Aussie dollar lately, so chances are any strength will be still used as an opportunity to sell the Aussie dollar again.
What about the Japanese market? Of course, we saw it down another 3% yesterday, so off over the past two sessions or past four sessions by about 7.5% there. What's your thinking on what we'll expect on the Nikkei today?
Yeah, there has been a lot of talk around that consumption tax for Japan. Of course, currently they have a tax of about 5%, which is one of the lowest in the world, really. I think Canada is one of the few countries with a comparable consumption tax. And of course, Kuroda was on the wires yesterday, and he spoke about his support for the consumption tax. And of course, it is expected to rise to 8%. And now it's all about how it's going to be implemented in a way that won't necessarily derail the recovery. And of course, Kuroda did highlight that he doesn't feel that it will impede on the recovery. And this is pretty good, actually, for confidence in the international market. Of course, we do know that Japan's got a pretty unhealthy balance sheet at the moment. They're spending around twice as much as the economy brings in. So the international community would really want to see Japan take some positive steps towards fixing its finances. Now, at the same time, we do have this dollar-yen continuing to struggle. It's back at that 98 level, but it's still looking like it might dip below that in today's session. With that in mind, the Nikkei is actually pointing down about 1.2%, so we will see it trade down again in the mid-13,000s. So that should be quite an interesting session for Japan, particularly with quite a bit of data on the wires as well, including the unemployment rate, household spending, and of course industrial production due out. So that should be quite an interesting one for investors to look out for. We also have SoftBank reporting earnings in Japan today, and they are weighted around 5% of the Nikkei, of course, so they will have a pretty big bearing on how the market trades today. But at the moment, it looks like the Nikkei will open the session much lower.
So given all of that, how are we likely to open on the ASX 200?
Yeah, we're looking at a mild gain at the moment of about 0.2%, so there's nothing much in it. We'll probably trade around that 5,055 level at the open. And of course, given the strength that we saw in some of the iron ore miners in London trade, it looks like they will open quite slightly higher here as well. BHP's ADR is pointing to a gain of around 0.7%, so that's probably where most of the gains for the ASX will come from earlier on. And of course, we do have a few earnings or sales numbers on the wires. We've got Navitas with its full-year results, and of course, Woolworths coming out with its fourth quarter sales. So that should be quite interesting to watch. Generally, I think that the main department that investors look out for is their food and liquor division, and of course that's expected by analysts to show sales growth of around 2.3%. So that should be quite interesting to see if they're still on track. And of course, this will also have a bit of influence on Wesfarmers, which obviously owns Coles, and how they will track for the day as well. With the building approvals numbers due out, we might see this influence some of the construction stocks like James Hardie and Boral as well. So that should be quite an interesting session for those sort of stocks.
All right, thank you so much. Plenty to watch out for, Stan.
Cheers, Brady.
Stan Shamu there from IG. Well, let's get a little more on the session that we saw on Wall Street. We spoke earlier with CNN's Alison Kosick in New York.